Hello, my name is Kyle Hooten. I will be teaching Chapter 5, Personal Protective Equipment, going through my setup process for the class now. I have my SCBA here for the class for inspection and for skills. I have my mask with the SCBA for class inspection and skills. I have my paperwork here, which I'm about to set up into their respective files for the students who will be attending, and for the roster to get that set up for them to sign into. Training record. We have our objectives printed off. We have a skill sheet for each student. We have a test for each student. That will be administered at the end. Each student will be given a copy of the objectives so that they can track the goals for the class that they are attending. As I work through this, I have the PowerPoint up on the front screen for the students to be able to see. I also have off screen a different TV with a screen on it that mirrors the front screen so that I can look at it and keep eye contact with the students at the same time. We have our tests, we have our individual skill sheet for each student. We have the objectives for each student. The students will be able to kind of follow along on both the objectives and the skills required of them, so they can start preparing for the practical portion as well as monitoring the overall objective for each lesson. Test answers as well as student or instructor's task book will be up front with me, secured so that they cannot just see it. The way I'm choosing to have the classroom laid out is caddy corner on both sides, the second row, and then one in the middle in the back row, so that there's no obstruction of the screen for them. Also have the equipment displayed up front. We'll move chairs off to the side so that nothing that their view isn't obstructed as we talk about the different components of our SCBA. They can visualize and have a reference in mind for the tasks associated to it. The test will be right here in the corner, ready for them. Again, and then we have our sign-in sheet. The tests are spaced out, so you can each just grab their own individual packet when the time comes. Sign-in sheet will be on the back front corner so that they see it as they walk in. And before we invite the students back and get started on the actual lesson, we will just inspect the equipment we brought in and make sure that it meets the requirements of the class and doesn't set them up for failure first. So we have the appropriate air. We'll turn it on, make sure that all the gauges are working. Okay. Make sure that our appropriate air, that all of our gauges turn on, the pack acts appropriately so that we don't set the students up for failure before it gets started. Make sure that we don't have anything detrimental on our masks, SCBA masks as well. It's set up and ready for the students to go. We will get buckets of soapy water for cleaning of the masks. We will do it all here internally without any delay for testing. And we'll test one at a time because we have one instructor or one proctor to one student to make sure that the test is being done appropriately for appropriate testing and monitoring for the student. Okay. All equipment performed as expected. We will ensure that our PowerPoint is ready to go, that all of our technology is doing what it's supposed to do, that all the slides are correctly updated and look appropriate. We've loaded the right objectives and outline for the class we're about to administer. We have our outline edited down for just chapters that matter to us to match the PowerPoint as well, with objectives and lesson goals. And all the instructor notes on it as needed. I will now pause, collect my students, have them, and then I will start the recording and have the sign in, assign seats, answer any preliminary questions they may have, and get started on the class today. Thank you. All right, class in session. We're going to talking about Chapter 5, Firefighter Personal Protective Equipment. If my students can please sign in on the sign-in sheet that's back on your back left corner of the desk. First name, last name, and I'll put grade on there when we're done. Just housekeeping needs, bathrooms are back in the back right, boys and girls if you need it. Water fountains outside as well as drinks. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll review all objectives, and I'll ask for questions at the end of every objective point. Questions or anything, everyone's on the same page, okay? Sounds good. So this is Chapter 5, Firefighter Personal Protective Equipment. I've provided you the lesson objectives in front of you, and you have those skill sheets for the hands-on portion of the testing to review as we go before we get to the hands-on testing. Okay? Like I said, so objectives are to describe the inspection, cleaning, and maintenance of PPE, to describe conditions that require the use of respiratory protection equipment, identify SCBA components, describe SCBA limitations, explain the process of inspecting and cleaning SCBA, and describe safety considerations for working in and exiting a hazardous atmosphere while wearing SCBA. Skill sheet number 10, routine SCBA inspection, and skill sheet number 12, SCBA cleaning procedures, are what we will be testing over at the end, as well as a 10-question test material given. Again, we have our SCBA that I've already validated works and is correctly filled, and our mask to use for the hands-on portion as well. Any questions? Nope. All right. So, objective 1: describing, inspecting, cleaning, and maintenance of PPE. So, PPE can cause injury or illness if not properly maintained. So, we have hydrocarbon contamination reduces from residential fires, right? So we don't clean all of our stuff. We get residents from fire on us that are carcinogens. They increase our chances of cancer dramatically. So that's why we put so much emphasis on cleaning. Chemicals, oils, petroleum products are all on the outer shells of products that are in homes now. Contaminants can reduce the effectiveness of the retroflective trim, which again can cause hazards for not being able to see your partner in front of you, and we're in an ideal environment that we can find any kind of hazardous from body fluids to toxins as we are working. We are responsible for cleaning and keeping our PPE in good working order. Fully inspect PPE at the start of every shift, after every use, after washing, repair, decontamination, and on a periodic basis, right? Again, that's why we come in every morning, turn our stuff on, breathe air, make sure that it's filled up to the correct poundage, because every minute counts if you get into a precarious situation, and because we don't like to be complacent. Conditions to look for during routine inspection, right? Soiling, contamination, missing or damaged hardware and closure systems, physical damage, rips, tears, fraying, hems, cuffs, damaged stitching, wear due to friction, thermal damage, shrinkage, and damage or missing reflective trim. Brock went through his process, right? Put fucking color-coded stuff for each truck, so that we know which equipment matches which truck. We gotta make sure those match every morning. Make sure that there's no damage. If it is, give it your respective SCBA on your shift and switch out those bottles and have it tagged and have them look at it and send it off to the appropriate people who will fix it themselves. Conditions to look for routine inspection are loss of reflectivity of the shell on proximity equipment, cracks, melting, abrasions, or dents on columns or shells.
Do we do whatever?
All right, continuing on. Conditions to look for routine inspection are loss of reflectivity of shell or the proximity equipment, cracks, melting, abrasions, dents in helmet, shell, missing or damaged face shield or hardware, missing or damaged ear flaps or neck shroud, loss of watertight integrity in footwear, damage to or faulty installation of the DRD, and date of manufacturer to determine time and service. Again, all of this is just to make sure that our equipment works the way that we expect it to work before we enter an IDLH environment, because that it's not the right time to find out that our equipment is not sealed and that we don't want to be breathing those hot gases. So again, things we should do, right? Routine cleaning, perform yourself, advanced cleaning, decontamination, repairs, or replacement, report to your supervisors. Again, so we do a lot of those in-house, so we would deal with our SCBA tech. Annual inspections performed by our department, again, by our SCBA tech on shift, who has the records and maintenance logs for all of that, and again, and they will advise whether things need to go out of house or whether we can fix it in-house. Only personnel trained or certified to repair PPE should be allowed to conduct repairs. That's why we send all of our one per shift or two per shift off to SCBA tech certs, and they are the only ones conducting repairs and maintenance to our equipment in-house and or advising things that go out of house. For cleaning PPE, right, you have routine, advanced, specialized, and contract. Do not wash contaminated protective clothing, and washing machine is used for other garments because it can cross-contaminate and ruin the washing machine you have in-house. We have specialized equipment down at Station 2 that washes all of our PPE for us. They break down inner and outer shells accordingly and follow the manufacturer's recommendations for that. Do not take contaminated protective clothing into living or sleeping quarters of the firehouse. Again, we have hard signs that dictate don't bring anything past this point. Right, we don't want to contaminate places where we sleep and eat with carcinogens. It's just all a goal to reduce our exposure and hope to limit our risk of cancer in the future, because our job has us exposed and at much higher risk, about 20 to 30% higher risk of cancer than your everyday person. PPE that is carried in personal vehicles should be placed in a closable garment bag to protect it from sunlight degradation, again, and also it should be isolated from the rest of your car so that you don't cross-contaminate as you use it on calls and fires. Repairing PPE must be done by manufacturer-approved repair facility or trained department members. Again, all of our stuff goes to our certified techs, and they make determinations where it goes next. Clothing damaged beyond repair must be removed from service and destroyed, and it's our responsibility to notify your captain and your SCBA tech about equipment or PPE that is unable to be used or damaged so it can be sent off and repaired appropriately. What can occur if PPE is not properly inspected, cleaned, and maintained? Dirt bike.
That you're gonna have gear that could possibly be damaged and start degrading, and you're also not gonna have gear that you can take places and expect that you're not gonna be giving you and everyone else around you risk of cancer and spreading those carcinogens.
Yeah. So the reason we maintain our gear to ensure that it is properly working when we enter an IDLH environment to keep us safe, keep our partners safe, again, and cleaned and inspected to ensure that we're not cross-contaminating our living quarters, our eating quarters, and that we keep our reducers of cancer exposure as low as possible. Objective 2, describe conditions that require the use of respiratory protection equipment. Ventilation of smoke and products of combustion, short and long term, are fatal to our health, right? So respiratory protection, most effective ways to protect health. SCBA use is required by NFPA 1001, should be used in an IDLH environment during overhaul. And why are we using it during overhaul as well?
It's all gassing.
Yeah. So even after the fire's out, products are still hot and products are still off-gassing the carcinogens into the air that we don't want to be inhaling, again, and increasing our risks of exposure. So types of respiratory protective equipment, right? Atmosphere supplying respirators, ASRs, provide breathable air in oxygen deficient, toxic, or gas-filled atmospheres, primary type used in the fire service. Air purifying respirators. Again, so these have a particulate mask in them and will filter out the air to only allow oxygen and the rest of the atmosphere that we want to breathe in and keep all of the bad products out. These are less effective, and they have varying filters depending on what kind of purifying respirator you're using. So respiratory hazards. Respiratory hazards are common in IDLH situations: oxygen deficiency, elevated temperatures, particulate contaminants, gases and vapors, airborne pathogens, and to don appropriate level of PPE and respiratory protection before entering a potential IDLH environment or structure should be determined every time at the door, right? So if we suspect it, we should hedge on the side of caution first, use a 4-gas and clear it before we come off of our uncontained apparatus, right? So oxygen deficiency, so this just shows what happens when you enter an IDLH environment and have a reduced oxygen content in the air. So at 19.5, so know what's normal. First, we know what normal air quantity is, oxygen quantity in the air.
19.5.
20.5. 20.9 is oxygen, almost 21% is what's considered normal. At 19.5, it's still normal conditions, so that's kind of your base range is 19.5 to 20.9 is what's considered normal. 15 to 19%, the ability to perform strenuous work decreases. Coordination is impaired. At 14 or 12 to 14, you get a dizziness, headache, and rapid fatigue. At 8 to 10%, exposure results in mental failure, unconsciousness, ashen face, blueness of lips, nausea, and vomiting. So you start seeing signs of hypoxia. Exposure for 8 minutes, 8% results in fatality. Exposure to 4 to 5% can be treated, resulting in recovery. And then anything at 6% and lower is coma-inducing in 40 seconds, followed by death by respiratory arrest and cardiac arrest. So elevated temperatures. So breathing air heated by flame temperatures can have serious consequences. It decreases in blood pressure and failure of the circulatory system and pulmonary edema and aspirations again. So you get flash pulmonary edema and internal burns that cause the lungs to swell up and flood with fluid, and then you're no longer exchanging oxygen, and there's not a lot we can do in the field for it either, right? If the burns are so severe that your lungs swell and fill with pulmonary edema, then we won't be able to oxygenate you either, and no oxygen results in death. So that's why it's always important to make sure you know what environment we're going into, especially for fires, right? And to mask up at the door and don't enter without being ready to go on air correctly. Inhaling air that has been heated to flame temperatures can cause serious injury or death. Like I said, it will cause internal lung damage that will cause flash pulmonary edema and will stop us from being able to exchange oxygen correctly at all. Particulate contaminants, right, harmful to the respiratory system, can cause asthma, lung cancer, which is a big one for us, cardiovascular disease, COPD, and premature death. Protections from contaminants can be anything from the standard hospital mask that we wore all through COVID to a respirator that has particulate filters that are changed out every certain amount of hours. And again, they're only as good as the particulate you're trying to keep out, because as things get smaller, if you're not completely enclosed, eventually they will get through the particulate filter just like normal atmosphere. Sources of particulates, chemical reactions, combustion, wildland fires, welding and metal cutting operations of fire apparatus, operations following an explosion or building collapse, structural fires, especially during overhaul, right? And then the operations for fire apparatus, right? We know we're avoiding there is our vehicle exhaust, and gases and vapors. Gases exist at standard temperature and pressure, example, natural gas. And then vapors results from temperature or pressure changes that affect a solid or liquid. Example is going from water to steam. So inhalation, ingestion, and absorption are the routes that it can be absorbed. Right? Cancer, thyroid damage, eye irritation, cardiovascular disease, and respiratory problems can all result from the different routes of absorption. Fire gases and vapors, right? So we have carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen sulfide, nitrous gases, phosgene, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, and formaldehyde. Firefighters must use SCBA when operating in or near toxic atmospheres. Respiratory hazards remain during overhaul, again, because things are off-gassing, and without having a floor gas in there and clearing the atmosphere, we could still be exposed to all the same chemicals that we were concerned about when we were fighting the actual fire to begin with. Hazards from smoke increase as size of particulates decrease. Again, that's why we can't just switch to a particulate mask instead, because there's no guarantee that it can filter out all of the exposure in the building. And then hazardous concentrations may be present outside the structure. Non-fire gases and vapors. So hazmat incidents can produce potentially hazardous gases and vapors, that's why it's called a hazmat incident, right? So results always remain at a safe distance uphill, upwind, and upstream until completion of the risk analysis. So until we get an expert on scene that can identify the compound, tell us what our risks are and what kind of appropriate gear we should be in, we will remain at a recommended distance and uphill, upwind, and upstream so that we don't have any risk of exposure by the elements. Always consider atmosphere as hazmat incidents to be dangerous. Always wear SCBA until air monitoring demonstrates that it is safe, and hazardous non-fire gases and vapors are always a possibility at transportation incidences and in storage and manufacturing facilities, which is a key point for us because we work in an industrial area, so a lot of our calls always have a risk to a hazardous component to it. Common types and their locations. So carbon dioxide, fire suppression systems, ammonia is air conditioning, cooling and chilling systems, and agricultural applications. Sulfur dioxide is air conditioning and cooling systems. Chlorine is in water treatment facilities, water parks, and swimming pools, so the YMCA for us. And then pesticides are commercial outlets, farms, nurseries, and residents. Other locations for potential gas and vapors are sewers, storm drains, caves, trenches, storage tanks, tank cars, bins, and other confined spaces where lack of air movement allows for gases to settle together and displace oxygen, right? It's why they're called confined spaces and why we always have to be cautious and oxygenate and ventilate those places correctly before entering. Right, and have the knowledge and the certifications to back up the rescue and entering of those places appropriately. Airborne pathogens, disease-causing microorganisms suspended in the air, cause infection through inhalation and direct contact, encountering during medical response, vehicle extrication, rescue, and recovery, and terrorist attacks. Right, so we all know about these. COVID is our best example, and we've all lived through that process of having to isolate and scrub and wear our appropriate PPE and masks for filter, and how well it was able to spread as everyone at one point or another was contacted and had to be off for sick time for that, right? So what type of conditions would you use the respiratory protection be necessary? Oscar.
Fire, or just anywhere that the
Regulation.
forecast tells you you can't be.
Yep, sure. And certainly on fire, right? Also on several medical calls, right? When we suspect the underlying cause to be respiratory in nature, there's always a chance that it's contagious, and we have the risk of that, right? Why must firefighters always wear respiratory protection that is appropriate to the situation at hand? As we discussed, to reduce our exposure, right? And especially during overall, the overall goal of the nation is to reduce cancer exposure in numbers. We can only do that by implementing the correct safety measures so that we limit exposures to ourselves. On to objective 3. Any questions? Anyone need a break before we continue? All right. Identify SCBA components. So we have the open circuit SCBA operation, right? So we have the nose cup, face piece, the bypass valve, and the regulator. Right? So a lot of that looks very similar to how ours looks, right? So regulator, bypass valve. We have open nose pieces for us as well. High pressure hose, tank, exhaust valves, and then the internal workings of the face piece. So you have the inhalation hose, the exhalation, the breathing chamber. Okay, so this is for a closed circuit. So we don't work in closed circuits, right? These are for hazmat operations specifically, where they're going into an IDLH environment where they have to make sure that their skin and everything, their clothes, everything that they don't want in contact with it. These can go for a little bit long, so they'll recycle this. They'll have a filter in it, and they'll be able to go for longer on a closed system than an open system. And they can filter out some of the carbon dioxide and reuse the air a couple of times before it's considered bad. So that's the big difference between a closed and an open. as the picture shows, exactly with the same thing we have in front of us, right? So it's very, very similar. It may not be our product, that's a Scott versus the MSA, but still a very similar product, right? Really, again, for our purposes, no distinct difference. We have a digital gauge as well as a direct gauge to watch BSI as well. So SCBA may also have a number of other components unique to the manufacturer's design. Like I said, that was a Scott. Ours is an MSA, and then ours may be a little bit newer than theirs. We talked with our SCBA tech about potentially putting thermal cameras on all of our handheld SCBAs, right? So everybody has that technology as well. But that doesn't change how the overall pack functions, right? So you should always check your pack, make sure it's functioning, and understand the different components for your manufacturer. So breathing air capabilities, right? So 30 minutes at about 2200 psi, 30 minutes for 4500 psi under pressure. At 3000 for 45 minutes. So these are tanks are bigger, right? So the volume goes up here, even though the pressure drops. The actual container is a little bit larger, and so the duration goes up as well. Cylinder containers contains breathing air under pressure, right? Not oxygen. It contains atmospheric air, the same as we always breathe. It is not our medical oxygen tanks that we carry on the ambulances. Those are very different. Constructed of steel, aluminum warped, and fiberglass or a Kevlar carbon composite. Cylinders weigh 8 to 20 pounds depending on size, and pressure. And again, the big thing here is to watch for the integrity, because these are under pressure once you have them filled, right? So what you don't want is to have a compromised shell as you're attempting to use it and have the system implode on you. So depending on SCBA model, the regulator will have valves for normal emergency operations, so mainline valves and a bypass valve, right? So the bypass will, instead of forcing on an internal breathe and exhalation, it'll just force the entire bottle to flow all the time, kind of like putting a non-rebreather on a person. So face piece, frame, lens, head straps, exhalation valves, and speaking diaphragm, regulator fitting, and the nose cup are the pieces of your face mask. The qualitative and quantitative fit test required, right? So who does this for us?
SCBA tech.
SCBA tech. And we do it yearly, and we ensure that nothing's changed on your face. Your face mask isn't compromised in any way, and they can make repairs or replacements as needed. Facial hair that prevents a complete seal is prohibited. That's per our department policies as well. Eyeglasses are prohibited if the side of the frame presses through the sealed area. Contact lenses are allowed if firefighters demonstrate successful long-term use. So additional SCBA components are the remote pressure gauge, the end of service time indicator, and then the rapid intervention crew universal air coupling. So again, for RIC emergencies, if you have to go in for a downed firefighter to hook up to their SCBA, and the bottles will equalize, and you will start giving you will take air out of your tank, put it in his tank until both of them are equal, and you will both be breathing off the same bottle quantities at that point. Low pressure readings may not match the regulator gauge. Always assume that the lower of the two numbers is correct. So again, like I said, we have the physical and the electronic numbers. If they don't match for any reason, as recommended, I'll always gauge on the side of caution and go with the lower number. Additional components: emergency rescue breathing support system. The heads-up display of the HUD, so again, which is just another color-coded mnemonic to help monitor the amount of air in your system. The PASS device, which again will go off after a minute and alert people to a downed firefighter if he is not moving, and the lights and voice communication systems within the pack to, because everything is muffled inside a sealed, and communication becomes difficult, but it's still critical for our job. So describe SCBA limitations is our next objective. So that's SCBA protection limitations. So the where limitations are lack of physical condition, lack of agility, impaired balance, inadequate pulmonary capabilities, weakened cardiovascular ability, psychological limitations, and unique facial features. So what this really means, right, is that it's heavy. It puts you in a confined feeling space. So people who are claustrophobic have a hard time with this. Unique facial features can make it difficult to get a proper seal, and that it puts our body under stress. So we always have to be in decent shape, because another killer for firefighters is heart attacks on the job, right? Strain on the heart during hard work. Offsetting wear limitations, right? So again, so training, medical evaluation, and proper fit testing, which we do yearly. Equipment limitations, again, so limited visibility, decreased ability to communicate, decreased endurance, decreased mobility, poor conditions of apparatus, and low cylinder air pressure. So again, overcoming these limitations are frequent and proper inspection, care, and maintenance, which we do every morning and after every fire. Proper training, proper fitness, right? And when we have Bluetooth connected to our radios that help us communicate better from person to person. So what are some ways to overcome SCBA limitations, Fabre?
Proper training.
Proper training.
Yeah.
Proper training of us, proper training of physical and
Physical
mental.
and mental, and knowing your equipment.
Yeah.
For the inspections and everything. So
Sure.
It all comes down to training.
That's right. What steps can you take to decrease SCBA wear limitations and to increase your proficiency while wearing SCBA?
Training.
Okay, training, right? It all comes back to knowing your equipment, knowing yourself, and accepting whatever may be lacking and working to improve that, right? Not all of us are as strong as Fabre, not all of us are as fast as Nick, right? So we have to accept those limitations and know ourselves, but also train to do attempts to overcome those limitations too. So explain the process of inspecting and cleaning SCBA. So SCBA inspection and maintenance, the department schedule determines the frequency of the inspection. Inspections typically performed daily, weekly, or whenever firefighters report for duty. Periodic between inspections must not exceed one week, and must be inspected by a SCBA repair technician annually and after any repairs. So again, so SCBA techs track all of that for us. As I said, they determine the frequency for us. We check them daily to ensure that they are in proper working order. And if they're not, we pass them off, and the SCBA tech will either fix them in-house for us or send them off to a manufacturer for appropriate repairs. And we'll tag, and we will move on to backup equipment, right? Clean and inspect SCBA after each use, at the start of each shift, and every week on truck day. Repairs need to be reported immediately. Extensive repairs and cleaning may require the unit to be taken out of service or replaced until they are cleared for operation again. So we never want to just hedge that a piece of equipment can go one extra time, or the next shift will take care of it, or whatever the case may be. It is our lifeline in an IDLH environment, and we need to treat it as such. Daily, weekly inspections, face piece, the back plate and harness assembly, the breathing air cylinder assembly, the hoses, low pressure alarm, regulator, pressure indicator, gauges, and the integrated pass device, right? So you turn it on in the morning, ensure that your regulator and your cylinder match on PSI if they're under 90%. So for us, under 4,000, they need to be taken out and filled back up to the top. Ensure for any fraying and let the device go all the way off to ensure that all of the internal electronics are working appropriately. Identify where tear damages and potential problems before they result in failure during an emergency. Should be documented to record findings, report problems, and show trends as far as how what our wear and tear is, and if we're doing training and we have the same strap failing all the time, that'd be a good thing for us to catch a trend of and let our manufacturer know that they can potentially make a better improvement, right? Or order more so we have more of that piece of component on stock so that we can replace them more often. During the inspection, the inspector should check the hydrostatic test date label on the air cylinder to see if the cylinder is due for hydrostatic testing to check for leaks and flaws. Clean and sanitize face pieces and seal after each use. Ensure proper operation of the exhalation valve. Dry face pieces with lint-free cloth or air dry it. Do not submerge regulators or low pressure hoses in water. Anti-fogging materials can be applied. Cleaning face pieces after each use, even if they are not shared. Store face pieces in a case, bag, or coated pocket with straps fully extended. Again, so that you don't have wear and tear on it, and so we don't scratch up our masks, right? Because it's hard to see out of a scratched window. Must be performed by specially trained factory technicians according to manufacturer's recommendations. That's on the annual SCBA inspection and maintenance. Again, fire department personnel and certified maintenance contractors, depending on what the conditions and recommendations are. And again, on the fire department personnel, only our certified technicians are qualified to make those maintenance repairs for us. So what should SCBA inspections, when should SCBA inspections take place? Dirt bike.
Every morning.
Every morning, every week, and at manufacturer's recommendations, right? So objective 6, the last objective for us, describe the safety considerations for working in and exiting a hazardous atmosphere while wearing SCBA. Safety concerns while wearing SCBA: exposures to airborne hazards, fatigue, regulating air supply, and proper exit procedures. SCBA safety precautions: only enter an ideal H environment if you are certified to wear SCBA and properly fit tested. Closely monitor how you feel. If you become fatigued, notify your supervisor and rest. And we know all this, right? So after 20 minutes of hard work, that bottle is going to be consumed for us, and we're going to have to recycle, go to our rest area, switch out bottles, hydrate, and wait for the other team to come back, and we continue on that rest work cycle until the problem is solved, right? But again, in between all of that, by the time you've gone in a second, third time, some of it is on us to monitor how we actually feel and don't put ourselves and our team in a precarious situation trying to be a hero, right? It comes back to knowing yourself and being properly fit to do the job at hand. Air supply duration can vary depending on air cylinder size and beginning pressure, your physical condition, the task being performed, your level of training, operational environment, level of stress, and air management techniques. What's a good air management technique that we use?
Skip breathing.
Skip breathing, yep. So SCBA safety precautions before entering an ideal H environment. Check cylinder pressure and estimate point of no return. Establish a personal baseline for air usage. After entering an ideal H environment, keep SCBA on and activated until you leave the contaminated area. Improved visibility does not ensure area is free of contaminants, again, during overhaul. And before you remove SCBA, the atmosphere must be tested and found safe with a 4 gas. Which again, we talk about all the time to reduce our exposure to carcinogens and reduce our risk of cancer here. So SCBA safety precautions work in teams of 2 or more in ideal atmosphere, right? We always have a buddy, we always go 2 in, 2 out. We try not to freelance, make sure that whatever job we're assigned to, we complete that, and then we report back to our incident commander and request a different assignment instead of just freelancing, so they can keep track of where everybody is in case of a mayday, or that the integrity of the structure changes and we know how to get everybody out correctly. Remain in physical, voice, or visual contact. Radio contact is not sufficient. A thermal imager can help maintain contact in conditions that are where low to no visibility are. Check air supply status. Frequently exit the ideal atmosphere before the low air alarm activates, and always know where your exits are and how far you have to travel for those. Radio contact is not sufficient communication between teams because members in any ideal environment. Why?
Because they're not always reliable.
Not always reliable.
Spots.
Hard to hear and understand somebody on the radio, right? But also because if they're calling out a mayday and it's over the radio and nobody has any idea where this person is, the time to find him increases significantly, right? Versus somebody that entered with that person, knows the layout and knows where that person, again, within voice or visual contact, knows how to get their hands on their partner, right? So radio is not sufficient because it doesn't help draw a map to the team member we're trying to find if they went off by themselves. Always be prepared to make a rapid exit or withdrawal. Non-emergency indicators, emergency exit indicators. So what are some non-emergency exit indicators for us? Fires out, pass alarms going off, or low air alarms going off, and we just need to recycle, right? What are some emergency exit indicators for us?
Signs of building collapse.
Signs of building collapse.
Conditions.
Yeah, flash over. That's signs of a fire getting behind us, right? That the fire is pushing us instead of us pushing it. So, situation to stabilize, change in operational strategy necessary to replace an air cylinder, IC orders, non-emergency withdrawal, or the assignment is complete. Emergency indicators, SCBA failure, activation of the SCBA low pressure air alarm, withdrawal orders issued by IC or safety officer, changes in environmental conditions, changes in oxygen level, or indicators of new hazards. The IC is responsible for constant monitoring. When potential hazard is revealed, IC issues orders to change required respiratory protection or withdrawal completely. Oxygen deficiency is to report symptoms and activate area immediately. So again, lightheadedness, disorientation, loss of consciousness or coordination, increased breathing rates, and rapid fatigue. So again, all things that are normal for somebody in all of our gear who ends up getting hot and doing hard work, right? So we got to monitor ourselves as well, and again, don't try to play the hero. We all have off days. We all have days where we're not hydrating the way we're supposed to, or we didn't eat something that agree with us correctly. We just have to be honest with our physical conditions as it comes to an IDLH environment, so we don't put ourselves or our team at risk. Again, so exit techniques for non-emergency, or the buddy system, which should always be in place, right? You shouldn't have entered an IDLH environment without somebody with you. Controlled breathing, so skip breathing for us as we practice here, and planned egress paths. So it could be as simple as a door or a window or a roof ladder, depending on what level and condition we're at, right? So, and also knowing where the IDLH environment is versus where our egress paths are, right? So if we entered on the A side, pushing, and the fire is pushing from the C side toward the A side, then obviously we don't want to try and exit on like the CD corner instead of the AD corner, right? So having a structural map in mind of where to get to safety. So question review, so list 5 emergency exit indicators that would signal a need for exit of a hazardous environment.
Equipment malfunction.
Okay?
What do you say?
Equipment malfunction?
The I incident commander orders.
Yep.
Environment.
IDLH, things get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Environmental changes.
Yeah, environmental changes to our structure, and what were some non-emergency exit requirements? Oh, exit techniques, there you go.
Controlled breathing.
Yep.
Buddy system.
Yep. All right, and then you are performing search and rescue on a structure fire, and you see a person in need of rescue in the next room. IC calls for emergency evacuation before you can reach them. What would you do in this situation?
Emergency exit.
Call
Like
it
that,
out.
like call it out, but if you think you can get to them and make an emergency exit, then do it.
Yeah, you call it out, like you got a down victim.
Yeah, so some of this comes back to our priorities, right? So life over anything else for us, and then structure, and then everything else, right? So we have somebody that is in need of rescue, especially someone that we know exists in the structure. And again, this is a discussion question. This is more of a personal. I mean, everything will always have a different situational factor, right? But if we're search, we know they're in the next room. It's why we were in the building to begin with. It may change how we rescue them, right? We may not be able to take the extra time to figure out a more smooth exit strategy for our victim. It may be down, dirty, and ugly. We may just be throwing a mask on them and hauling, right? Or we may have to cut a hole and make a door ourselves and exit through a non-standard exit route. But if we know that there's a victim on hand, especially if they're alive and salvageable, right? We risk a lot to save a lot, and a life is always a lot for us, right? So.
I think the biggest thing would be communicating that you have someone.
Yes, yeah, because
Especially the way that was worded, it says that you see them.
Yeah.
They're in your line of sight.
right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it says that they're in the next room over. And you're, so communication would be huge here, right? Because this would change, because he's ordering an emergency evacuation, but
But it would change priorities potentially.
right, and it would change the resources thrown at the emergency in general, right? So it would put all hands on to try and
Get this
buy
right.
time for, and make the ILH environment more tenable for the next 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever time we can buy. And some of it is just an acknowledgement of the risks that we all know come with the job, but in that particular moment would be very high, right?
Sure. If you know where you're at, like I'm on, Delta, Charlie Corner or whatever.
Yeah.
Throw up a ladder on this side, and you could make your exit that way.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, yeah, it would change. Like I said, it would really just change the resources that we would commit to the overall emergency, and would probably change the incident commander's evacuation strategy. Right? They probably would no longer be an evacuation so much as a controlled rescue, as well as a defensive strategy at that point. So yeah. But again, like I said, the situation will always dictate everything, right? I mean, if you know that you have a body in the next room, but the door is wide open, that's where the fire started, and it's the hottest point of the area, and they're not wearing our equipment, right? We're also not rescuing a person; we're just doing a body recovery at that point, right? So yeah, so the situation would always dictate this, but it's good to keep in mind and just the risk a lot to save a lot for us, right? So if we know that they're there, that they're tenable. That would trump an IC order for emergency evacuation if we're already in the structure, for me, for sure. Any other questions on this content before we go to we'll take a small break, restroom, review the skill sheets, and then we'll go into our test, okay? Test.
pause for any signature?
It is still recording, by the way, so, yeah, I'm not pausing it for the break. Pass out the test while they are on their break. We'll review the skill sheets with them when they come back. Ensure that they are on board with what is expected of them on the practical side as well, make sure they don't have any questions on that. And then we'll go into our written test. And I will have them turn those in, and grade them, and pass them back out, and answer any questions they have before we do. The video is still recording, just so you're not surprised, okay? I'm going to make another copy of the skill sheets real quick, and then we will discuss the practical skill sheets, and then we will, any last minute questions before we go through the test, okay?
All right.
All right, guys, we're going to go over skill sheet number 10 first, just so we are all on the same page for what's expected of the practical portion. Number one is going to be the objective is for the student shall perform an inspection of the SBA unit as if it were a daily or routine scheduled inspection. Students shall use any SCBA units available to that fire department. The instructions of students shall demonstrate daily and periodic inspection, cleaning, and sanitizing of the unit to assure that SCBA is ready for use. Check all components for cleanliness, physical, thermal, and chemical damage. 2, ensure that the air cylinder has full pressure, so approximately 90% of the capacity. Check the hydrostatic date and verbalize when it is due, which again is five years for us, just so everybody is clear on that. Turn the cylinder valve on fully and verify pressure reading on the tank and regulator gauges are within 100 psi of each other. Don the face piece and check the face piece seal. Check the exhalation valve if applicable to the mask, which it is for us. Attach the regulator into the face piece and ensure that the mainline valve fully opens. Check the appropriate operation of the heads-up display. Check all hoses connections are tight and free of leaks. Check for adequate, comfortable airflow. If changing cylinder on a firefighter, state the amount on the cylinder gauge to the firefighter. Operate the bypass valve. Check operations of the pass device. Turns unit on and bleeds the high pressure hose slowly, and then checks for operation of the low pressure line, leading the airline. Returns all straps, valves, and components back to a ready state. Any questions on that? No? No. Okay. And then on the second skill, the skill sheet for number 12, actually we'll disassemble all components of the SCBA. We will clean the face piece with a mild cleaner and rinse completely. Applies an approved disinfectant to the face piece and rinses completely. Dries a lint-free cloth or air-dried components. Clean and completely rinse the pressure hoses. Thoroughly clean and rinse the cylinder and clean harness assembly according to manufacturer recommendations. Any questions on that? Okay. But, fine. Sorry. Not a problem. All right, guys, so I've passed out your tests to you while y'all were on break. They're flipped over right there, so go ahead and flip them over. And take your time on it. Just bring them up and put them down, face down, right here when you're finished, and I will grade them and pass them back out. We'll go over any questions you have, and then we'll move on to the practical skills.
What's today's date?
18th. look over them real quick, and then if you have any questions, that you need to address. If not, move on to the next part. Any questions, guys?
Nope.
Alright, go ahead and take 10 while I get the rest of the cleaning equipment needed for the practical skills, and go ahead and grab your own personal masks as well, okay? When I step out of the room, I'm gonna grab the cleaning supplies needed, as well as my own masks. And then we will do a walkthrough, demonstrate what's expected of them, and then have them each individually test one at a time. So there's one instructor, one evaluator, one student testing, and ensure that all the practical skills are tested correctly.
we're gonna order new stickers with the beginning of next year, or this coming year. So we'll just get you a new one.
Sweet.
I don't know if it'll say that though.
You might wanna just take that lens home once we take it out, so you can keep your dirt bike.
Alright, so what do we wash our equipment with?
Live detergent water.
Yeah, mild detergent, so for us that means Dawn dish soap, right?
Yep.
Alright, so we all want to come up here, we will walk through the skills first, hands-on, make sure we all understand what's expected.
You want us to bring our skill sheets up?
Sure, yeah, so you can read them. Next, we'll be going through number 10 first. So as I said, so our first check is to check all the components for cleanliness, physical harm, like chemical damage, right? So physically putting our hands on it, running up through all the straps, checking for any major discoloration, damages, fraying of wires and straps. Sure it all looks okay. Right? And we'll do that for both sides, not just one side, right? So now we pick it up. And inspect the back side as well. So there's the plastic, anything like that, right? Okay. Any questions on that?
Nope.
I'm sure the air filter has at least 90%, which again for our SOPs means that we're about 4,000, right? Make sure our pack look okay. Okay, and then we're going to check the hydrostatic date, and we know what the hydrostatic date is. So for us to check the hydrostatic date, we have to physically remove the bottle from the pack, okay? Hydrostatic date for us is right here, right? So it's sent off and rechecked back in July of 2020. And for us, it's a five-year cycle, which means it's not due until July of 2025, okay? We still have two years, approximately a year and a half left before we need to worry about that again. And as it says, make sure that you find it and fertilize it, okay? And then don our face mask and check for appropriate seal, which again is why I had you bring in your own face mask, right? So we'll do that part, we'll put it on, put our hand over it, breathe out, make sure that the exhalation valve is working. Attach it to the regulator, make sure that the main line is fully open, right? So again, so we'll turn the bottle on, make sure it all works appropriately, hook up to the regulator, breathe a couple of breaths, and then you can turn it back off, okay? Check for the proper heads up displays, make sure all your lights are working. Check hose connections, tight and free of leaks, make sure we don't hear any leaks we hook up. Check for adequate comfortable airflow as you're breathing. If changing air cylinder in a firefighter suit is required, verbalize the gauge of the bottle, right? So if we were to switch this out, put a new bottle on our teammate, make sure that you tell him, hey, you have 4,500 PSI, you're good to go. Okay? Operate the bypass valve, which for us is right here. Turn it on. Here we go. Close it back up. Okay? Operate the pass device. Set it off. Okay. They can reach over here, hold it, set it off, and we'll clear. Okay? And then turn off the bottle, bleed it out slowly, ensure that the low air alarm is working appropriately. And then reset it all back up right before the guy behind you comes in. All right? Any questions on that?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. And we'll do the same thing here. We will disassemble the SCBA. I said, so it'll already kind of be set up by this point, why we'll do this steel second. Again, I will run each individual person through their number 10 scale and number 12 scale before we go to the next person, just so that this is set back up appropriately for each scale, okay? So we'll take it apart. We rinse the face mask with a mild cleaner, so if we have any need, because we're on duty, we'll use the sample face mask for rinsing, right? So we will rinse, dip it in, make sure it gets all nice and clean. Put it over here on our drying station, we air dry, which is why we try to do this off shift and not have to go to our backup mask, okay? Apply disinfectant. We don't use disinfectants on our masks unless we absolutely have to. Dry with the lint-free cloth, which is what that is. Again, we allow ours to air dry. We will wipe down the SCBA components itself. Same process. Dip. Wipe everything now, make sure that it is all clean and free of debris. If we suspect that we have any need for a more thorough cleaning, then we would take it out to the bay, get our scrub brushes, and again, the same process, just more abrasiveness behind it, right? So same warm water, same light detergent, so non-dish soap for us. And ensure that it is free of any debris or carcinogens, right? So as long as it looks good, and we'll pat her dry. Look it all back up, ensure that she is in order. Etc. for the guy behind you to come in and do this test. Okay? Any questions?
No?
All right. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have the other two just wait outside. I'll come get you one at a time from there, okay?
All right.
All right, so go ahead and state your name for me.
All right, Oscar Perez.
Okay, after we're going to be doing testing on skills 10 and skills 12, okay?
All right.
All right, whenever you're ready.
I'm going to check the SCBA here for any obvious damage or frays of the strap or hoses. See if anything needs replaced. Checking my connections as well. Checking for just like O-rings and everything, checking the bottle. Disconnecting it, checking the pressure, make sure it's appropriate. And the hydrostatic date, which is on the bottle. It was done in 2020. And we have them done for our policy every 5 years, so it will be done in 2025, about a year and a half away, it looks like. Put it back, connect it. turn the bottle on, check the pressure and my bypass valve. I don't know how much more left on here. Alright, my low pressure alarm is working as well. The bypass works there. Now I'm gonna test the pass device. You good? Do I have to let it go till it?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Alright, that works. And then oh, not that. Just the clean portion of that. Okay. Alright. I'm gonna put my mask on and again, the pressure alarm works. And my heads-up display also worked in my Mac.
Perfect.
She's on.
Alright, anything else you want to add to that scale before we finish it?
I don't think so.
Alright. Okay, now we will be going into the skill sheet, number 12, SCBA cleaning procedure.
All right. Well, we clean with mild detergent and warm water. And for our policy, since this hasn't been in a fire or anything in recent times, we're just gonna take a lint-free cloth to wipe it down. So just go through, wipe down every part of it, just make sure it's clean and free of any dirt or any kind of harmful things that could get on it from a regular use, or clean off the hoses, the straps, your connections, and that's front and back. But if it was in a serious fire or anything, we'd really deep clean it, take it out to the bay, and scrub it down with brushes, but still use the same detergent and warm water. But just hit it a little bit harder with some brushes out there, but like that. Alright, and the mask, we do the same, except we just submerge it in that mild detergent. Let's verbalize, Just dunk it, flip it around, make sure it gets cleaned. And then for that, you just, we let it air dry. Some people wipe it down with like a lint-free cloth, but we just let them air dry. And obviously, unless there's like bigger chunks on it and we got like really messed up or dirty, this is usually how we do it.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't believe so.
That will work. Thank you.
Cool. Want me to get the next guy?
Yes, please. The other two, I'm gonna switch our positioning around so that they're on the side facing the camera. I realized when I was looking up that his back was to you the entire time, so. Get your skill sheets are typed. Perfect. I might be on this side so the camera can actually see that they're facing the wrong way. All right, just state your name just so that I'm make sure I'm evaluating the right person. All right. And Dustin, you're good to begin whenever you're ready. And we'll do the skill sheets and the routine SCBA inspection first.
Okay. First thing we're gonna do is check, make sure there's no damage to the harnesses and the structure of the SCBA. Check straps, make sure there's no thermal damage, cuts, tears, rips, anything that will disrupt the integrity. Check that side, check the back plate, the shoulder harnesses, the hip strap. Everything looks like it's good. Next, we're gonna pick up the bottle. Inspecting the inside, making sure that everything looks good on that as well, checking underneath. Everything's functioning, that it secures it.
Let's do it on the model
I'm
itself.
gonna check the hydrostatic test date, which is 7/20. Our department checks every 5 years, so 7/20/25 is when we'll have those retested. Put the bottle back in. You have some trouble with this one? Yep. All right, now let's reconnect it. There's the harness on it. Lifting my mask. First thing is to check the now, so it's functioning. Looks good. And then after I put this on, I'll check the seal. Seal. And we'll do is we'll turn the bottle on. Check my pressure. And make sure they match. I want them to be within 10 psi. Look like they match. Go ahead and put it up. Check my relief. That's working. And I'm going to choose my pass device, make sure that that is in working condition. That works. Shut the air off to the bottle. I'm going to slowly let the pressure out, checking the low pressure alarm.
Anything else you'd like to add before we move on?
Just that I'd be checking also my high pressure hose and my W breather, making sure all of that is working.
All right, so we'll now go into the skill sheet number 12, the SCBA cleaning procedures.
First thing, we're gonna, because there's not a lot of contaminants on this, just gonna do a wet wipe down, but if it did have a lot of contaminants and was very dirty, we would get soapy water, scrub it with brushes, and then rinse it off with warm water.
Okay.
With this, we're just gonna take a microfiber cloth, take it wet, put the air ball out. Clean everything, wipe everything down. Make sure we get any kind of carcinogens that might be on it off. Wiping down the harness, shoulder straps, checking our hoses, making sure all of that's clean. Backside, just checking to make sure that there's no carcinogens or anything that could deteriorate the SCBA. Just dry it with a lint-free cloth. Good. And then for the mask, use warm soapy water, using mild detergent, bucket. And then if you let it air dry, typically do it off shift. You want to dry it air, not having any excess heat.
All right, that'll work. Thank you. You will send the last one in for me? Also, you give us the Oscars and connections for the truck.
All right, all right. Do this thing. Who are we starting with?
All right. Could you give me your name?
Zach Fabric.
All right, Zach. We'll be starting with skill sheet number 10, routine SCBA inspection.
Checking for any gouges out of the rubber hose or any abrasions. And then with all my straps and everything, I'm just checking for damage. Checking my battery life.
What else did you check on the bottom before you looking back out?
Oh, you check the threads, make sure it's all clean. I'm gonna check that it's in date hydro tested. Which is right there. It's on there. Check my pressure, it's above 4,000. We're not messing up with this yet, right? Is that next? It is on here? Okay. I'll reconnect. Check my pressure. I'm going on that. Do you want us to actually don the SCBA? Are we putting the SCBA on, or are we just putting that? Okay. So then we'll turn it on. Verify my pressure gauges. Gas device is working. You want me to alarm the clock?
No, that's fine.
Isolation valve is good. I got my HUD.
else you'd like to add before we move on to the next skill?
No, that's usually what we would do for our morning check.
Alright.
And I just, well, obviously, I wouldn't leave the hose hanging out. It'd be all running on. And I just put it all back. How I would like it. So that's that. What's next?
Alright, next we'll move on to skill sheet number 12, which is the SCBA cleaning procedure.
Okay. You said for that, we do it, we're gonna use the other mask, right?
Yep.
Because my mask is already clean.
That's right.
Alright. So cleaning procedure. I'm still gonna do the same thing, I'm gonna inspect everything, see what's what. Put the bottle out. Get it all spatchcocked out, you know. And then the mild soapy water, warm water. Just give her a wipe down, get all the debris off of the hoses. Basically everywhere, sign up, grass everywhere that's gonna come in contact with those. We don't want anything staying on there off lesson. Lift that out. Get that clean and free of debris. Back of the harness. Wipe the cylinder down too. Don't want to transfer any of that bad stuff anywhere else. With the mask, depending on how dirty it is, I would dunk it or run it underwater, depending on what we have, you know. Whether it's a bucket of water or a sink or a hose. Do a little shake it out, make sure everything, you get all the debris out. I'll wipe off the outside, get the big water off. And then we just air dry it the rest of the day, because we usually get it when we're going off shift.
Anything else you would like to add?
And we were just demonstrating cleaning, right?
Yep.
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
All right.
Well, thanks, Robert.
You're welcome.
Talk my wrap up now and.
You want me to go get that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, real quick. All right, while he's being the other two students, I will put this together. All right, yeah, that's all I had to say today. You all did great. I really appreciate your time and patience with this. Is there any questions before I dismiss this class?
Nope, thank you.
All right, guys.
You.
Thank you very much. We'll just do me a favor and take them bucket back out with you. Yep. Take the water back out with you.
Alrighty.
I turned my testing up front.
Perfect. Thanks, sir. Good. I gotta talk to the camera folks. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. That's it.
I'm gonna be in the conference room.
Good. I'm bugging you in a minute. All right, so I collect all their paperwork. Again, this happens to be my facility, but in general, if I was teaching a class, especially if it was at somebody else's facility, I would ensure that I cleaned up the mess I made. If there was one, ensure I left everything in better condition when I found it, if not the same condition. I would thank the facility users for allowing me to use their space and for their time as well. We will collect all the paperwork assigned from each person. And ensure that I have everything organized by individual and that everything is signed off appropriately for the state and for the individuals. That they get the certifications that they spent the time and effort and money on potentially, and that there's no mistake on my end to ensure their integrity. We have Oscar's skills. We have Oscar's tests. The other ones. Dustin's. Dustin's test. Test and skills. Everything is checked and signed. Everything is signed and graded. Signed and graded. Checked. Again, Fabri's skill sheets signed and checked. And Fabri's test checked and graded. With that, I will make sure that we have the class roster appropriately. And that their grades. So for the training record, the class roster and training records, that all the information is filled out on it correctly. If they have any recommendations or remarks, so then the place to put it. I want to ensure that I have my test answer. I don't want that laying around so we can ensure the integrity of the overall test for the state. So we want to destroy that appropriately, as well as my outline if it has any critical information in it that needed to be disposed of. I would ensure that it gets disposed of appropriately. And a shredder of some kind. And then my task book for Fire Instructor 1 is going through it real quick and ensuring that all of the appropriate pages are filled out and ready to send off. compile all this and scan it up and email off. I truly appreciate your time. Same with the PowerPoint. Make sure that I upload the PowerPoint that was given to with the email and video. That's what I will do real quick. I'm going to go shred this and ensure that it is properly destroyed to ensure the integrity of the test. Okay, thank you for your patience with that. The test and the outline are both properly disposed of now. Again, thank you for your time and your patience. I will upload all of this to the appropriate YouTube and have the link emailed over along with all of the outlines, PowerPoints, objectives that I edited to meet the credentials of this class. As I said one last time, that I will clean up the station as if it was not mine. Ensure that I leave this area in better condition than I found it, and put all of the equipment that I used or borrowed back in their appropriate homes, taking into consideration that the host were gracious enough to allow me to use the equipment. Have a good day, and thank you again.